Page 27 is a biggie. I'm going to do a little bit of just about all of these with you because the most challenging part, hi Shadow, the most challenging part is rewriting the equation and writing it into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to take you through the steps. What I'd like for you to do is get a piece of notebook paper, just like this. I want you to write the work that you do on this notebook paper. There's not room on this page to adequately write the equations and write out all the steps so that they're in slope-intercept form. So you need a piece of notebook paper. Here is mine. I took my paper and I copied the equation from every one of these, all 6 of them. And I spread them out. They're about on the same place here as they are in here. Thought it would be easier to go from here to here if they were on the same place. The other thing I did is I circled the variable term that we're solving for. We're always solving for the y. And so whatever form the y is in, if it's, if it's got a coefficient in front of it and it's the whole term we're going to start with, or if it's the y by itself, that's what I circled in each one. If it's the y by itself, we have fewer steps. If it's got a coefficient, then of course we'll have to divide by that. Anyhow, just to kind of keep us focused on what we're doing, I circled that so we know that is what we're isolating. So if you could get your paper and set it up like this so that you can write down the steps, or the alternative is, you can go ahead and label your paper and then you can start writing them as we go along. And when we start doing 1, you can write that down and then write the steps. We get to 2, you can write that down and then write the steps with this, and so on. That's fine too. Just make sure that you've got this paper, that it's labeled so we know what it goes to, and also that it's neat and organized. One of the main things with algebra, one of the most important things, is getting stuff correctly laid out. You want it neat and orderly. It makes a huge difference in the accuracy of your work if you can tell what you've done, if it's neat and you can recognize what you've done and you can find it. With that said, let's begin number 1. Here is our y term, and so this is what we're going to start isolating. Right now, along with this, we have a positive 2x. We don't want the 2x on this side, we want it on that side because we're solving for this. So we will subtract 2x. When we do that, it'll get it away from this side. But of course, with algebra, what you do to one side, you do to the other. So we will also subtract 2x from that side. Then we end up with 3y on this side. Then we've got the x term and the constant. Remember, the equation for a line is y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to do my x term first. Minus 2x plus 12. Now that I have my whole term by itself, now I want to isolate just the variable because I am solving for just y. The opposite of times 3 is divide by 3. What I do with one side, I also do to the other. So I will divide this side by 3 and I will divide this side by 3. And that's kind of weird. So the way I handle that is I do this. I separate each term. So I have negative 2x over 3 plus 12 over 3. Let me write this more. Let me write this. Now let me rewrite it. I'll simplify this. When I do, I have y equals, and this is negative 2/3, but I'm going to make the whole fraction negative. 2/3, I'm going to pull away the x, plus 12 divided by 3 is 4. This is now in slope-intercept form. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. So you can come over here and rewrite your equation. Y equals negative 2/3 x plus 4. From this equation, you can now easily find the slope and the y-intercept. And on this one, I'll help you do the line, but on the others, I'd like for you to do them on your own. The y-intercept is 4, so I always start with that because I know how to find that one. 1, 2, 3, 4. That is a definite point. The slope just helps me find the incline so I know the orientation of the line. It's negative 2/3. So I will go down 2 over 3. 1, 2, 3. And just in case, I see that this is a negative slope. Here is the line for your equation. Let's go down and do number 3. This is pretty simple. We have the x and the y already by themselves. I think that I would like for you to do this one on your own. You're going to isolate the y. In order to do that, you've got to get rid of this x that's on the side with it. It's a positive x, so you need to subtract x from both sides. Come back to this one. I want you to do this equation on your own. Number 5. We have a negative 10y. That is our y term. So this is what we're going to start isolating. We have a positive 5x with it, so we're going to subtract 5x from both sides. That eliminated the 5x over here. We're left with still negative 10y on this side. Negative 5x plus 0. Negative 5x plus 0, or we'll just leave it blank. We don't need to write plus 0. It's nothing. The next thing we need to do is isolate just the y. Since we're multiplying y times negative 10, to get rid of the negative 10, we'll divide it by negative 10. You'll do that to both sides. That cancels out and gives us just y. And then we have negative 5x over negative 10. We can simply reduce this. We reduce both by 5. We're left with 1/2. And it starts with the x up here, right? We get rid of the negatives because you've got 2 negatives. That makes positive. But this isn't really quite written in slope-intercept form. The way you would write it is you pull that x away and it becomes 1/2 x, like that. Then we'll come over here and we'll write the equation now in slope-intercept form. Y equals 1/2 x. From that, we can see our slope is 1/2. Our y-intercept is nothing. So when we draw the line, we'll start with nothing, 0 on the y-intercept, on the y-axis, which is the origin, 0, 0. Our slope is 1/2. It's positive. We go up 1 over 2. Up 1 over 2. Number 2. Once again, I have a negative y. You see? Negative 2y. So I'm going to isolate the y term. I'll get rid of the 5x by doing the opposite, also known as the inverse. That cancels out and leaves me with 2y on this page equals negative 5x plus 8. Remember, we can't add these together because they're different terms. Now that we've isolated the y term, we're going to focus on just the y. To undo the times 2, negative 2, we will divide by negative 2. This is now y. I'm going to separate the terms. This is negative 5x over negative 2. Positive 8 over negative 2. Now I will simplify these. Y equals a negative and a negative. That makes a positive. I'm going to do two things. I'm going to show that this is positive because it's a negative and a negative. And I'm going to pull away the x. So now it is 5 halves x plus, actually, since it's going to be negative, I'll just, 8 divided by 2 is negative 4. So we'll do minus 4. The official equation for this in y-intercept form is y equals 5 halves x minus 4. I will take that, come over here, write it, from this, I now have a y-intercept and a slope. My y-intercept is 5 halves. My slope is negative 4. I'm going to have you chart that, or draw the line. Start with your y-intercept point. You know that's going to be a negative 4. You know where that goes. And then do your slope up 5 over 2. Number 4. I'll start with my equation. Oh, wow, negative, negative. Be prepared for that. So I have a negative y. I'm going to isolate this, get rid of the positive 3x. So I subtract 3x from both sides. That leaves me with a negative y. Negative 3x plus 2. It's a positive 2. Now, what I'll do, I think the easiest way to do this is to divide both sides by -1. Negative y divided by -1 is positive y. It's like, think of it that way. So then we end up with -3x divided by 1. I'll just write it like this. Plus 2 over -1. And then to simplify that, it ends up with, so -3x divided by -1 is positive 3x. 2 divided by -1 is -2. Y equals 3x minus 2. So when I write this in slope-intercept form, y equals 3x minus 2. I want you to find the slope and the intercept, and then I want you to draw the line. Finally, number 6. Make sure you're writing these steps too, because I will have you doing these by yourself. We're going to isolate the -4y term. This is positive, so to get rid of the x, we'll subtract x from both sides. And that leaves us with -4y equals -x minus 24. To undo the times 4y, to undo the times -4, I will divide by -4. That cancels out. I'll separate these terms. Becomes, so I'm going to separate these. It's negative and a negative, so it's positive. 1/4 x. I pulled the x and put it over here, plus -24 divided by -4 is 6. We'll take this and write it under your original equation. Y equals 1/4 x plus 6. You write the slope and the y-intercept and draw the line. So we've done most of this together. I've got 2 that we did completely together. 1 you need to do completely by yourself. And then these you need to do part of it. This is a lofty one, but the more practice you get, the better you'll get.